Some of the purchasers of my last DVD, The Season Never Ends, asked for more information regarding equipment and how to hunt coyotes. I hope this helps. First of all, let's talk about the rifle. There are obviously many different rifles to choose from, but my recommendation, if you are new at this game, is to stay with a repeating bolt action. Generally, a bolt action will provide the best accuracy, and you should set yourself the goal of being able to hit a circle no larger than 4 inches at 300 yards under field conditions. To do that, you'll probably have to shoot about 3/4 of an inch at 100 yards when shooting off the bench. Don't be discouraged if you can't do this, because most of your shots when calling should be closer to the 100-yard mark. But there will also be predators where the only shot you'll get will be much further away. There are also many fine cartridges that you can choose from. If in doubt, you can't go wrong with the 22-250. Having said this, I also think that the best rifle might be a semi-auto because it allows quick multiple shots whenever you have multiple targets, which in some areas can be quite often. In this case, I think a 223 is probably the best all-round cartridge. Ammunition is readily available at excellent prices, which allows for plenty of practice. But try to make all your shots count. The easiest shot you'll get will be the first shot, so don't think that the second and third shots will do better than the first. If you decide to go with the semi-auto, make sure it is accurate and it'll substitute well for a bolt action. Consider a customized rifle if you can afford it. I wouldn't eliminate other repeaters such as pumps and lever actions, but they'll cause more frustration if they shoot large game cartridges and aren't accurate enough for predator-sized targets. Now we'll talk about scopes. In my opinion, the scope is more important than the rifle. A good scope will get the most out of a poor rifle, but a poor scope won't get much even out of a customed rifle. You can't do better than you can see. I prefer scopes in the 10 power range and would never go larger than 16 power. Too much power and you'll have too small a field of view and not enough light gathering ability during the early morning and late evening hours. I like external turrets, and in some cases these are available as aftermarket accessories. Spend a bit of time at the range getting to know your scope settings. If you're only getting one external turret added to your rifle, the elevation one is the most important. And now binoculars. For me, binoculars are a must-have. I carry mine everywhere. However, one of the biggest mistakes that I see new varmint hunters make is using them too often. Keep in mind that you'll have a much reduced field of view when looking through them, and it is very important to spot predators as early as possible. If you see something suspicious as you're calling, keep checking at it with your eyes only as you're looking around, and if it moves, it's probably a predator. If it doesn't move, it's just a spot you missed when you first sat down to call. I might take a quick peek if I really think it's a predator, but I'll also be very careful not to make any movement that could cause the predator to spook. Also, stay away from small binoculars with high magnification. You won't get the optical quality or the field of view that you need. In my opinion, it's best to restrict yourself to magnifications between 6 and 8. Now the rangefinder. If you can afford it, a rangefinder is a most useful tool. However, some of the lower quality ones won't work well enough at the distance where they are most needed. What's the point of ranging a predator that's less than 200 yards away if your rifle shoots point of aim at that distance? You really need it at distances that start around 250 yards. To find out if it's good enough, try ranging a house cat if you're hunting foxes, or a medium-sized dog if you're hunting coyotes. If it can't range those animals at that distance, it won't be much help to you. The only shorter range exception is if you shoot over flat land or across valleys where it is very difficult to judge distances by eye. On one of my video clips, we grossly misjudged the distance, thinking that a 400-yard fox was only 250 yards away. It took us 4 shots to connect, and you don't get that many opportunities that often. Most often I'll use mine in reverse, meaning that I'll walk out to the animal and range back to my shooting position. This gives me practice in ranging with my eyes alone. However, my rangefinder gets a real workout when I'm trying to snipe beavers. Since I don't like walking bullets into targets, it saves me ammunition and makes first round hits very satisfying. You might be able to reduce your equipment load if you can purchase good binoculars with a built-in rangefinder. But again, make sure all optics are top quality. It's money well spent. You'll also notice that I have orange flagging tape attached to my case. That's so I don't forget it in the field. The bipod. Years ago I used a bipod that wasn't very good and got turned off regarding their usefulness. But when I saw other good predator hunters using them, my dislike slowly waned. And now I find them to be a great help, especially when I'm shooting prone. If you're sitting and calling, you may encounter some problems if the predator is moving from one side to the other, in front of your location. In that case, you may need to pick up the whole unit and move it one way or the other, and then set it down again. If the ground is irregular, or if there are grasses or other shrubbery, the bipod may get hung up and cause you to lose animals. Calls. Although I hunted for many years with a closed reed call, I now use an open reed call almost exclusively. The main reason is that open reed calls virtually never freeze up, even in the coldest weather. They have another strong point in that they are much more versatile, since you can make numerous other sounds that are useful to the predator hunter, such as howls, barks, and yips. However, there are so many foxes in the areas that I hunt that I rarely make sounds exclusive to coyotes, since I don't want to discourage the foxes from responding. I also have an electronic call, which I find most useful on really windy days because it has much greater volume. I also use it if I'm feeling a bit lazy, or when my lungs need a rest in the early part of the season, when my diaphragm gets tired from mouth calling. However, they can be most useful for the new predator hunter because they make good sounds, and best of all, they take the predator's attention away from you. The FRS radio. When I'm calling with a partner, we're almost always watching in different directions. We keep in touch with our FRS radios. When one of us spots a predator responding, we can alert the other if there's time. We turn them on any time that we're far enough apart that we need to speak to each other in anything louder than a soft voice. A GPS device can be a very useful tool if you want to return to a location where you've been to before and you've had success. The only time I've ever really needed mine, however, was on a very foggy day when I had difficulty finding different locations that I had been to before. The GPS helped me to find them quickly. I carry a roll of white tape with me whenever I'm hunting out in the field. I want to ensure that my muzzle is covered so that if I accidentally drop it into the snow, it's not going to get snow inside the barrel. And this happens once or twice a year if I don't have it covered. There's also the odd situation where, when walking through the bush, a stick will actually enter the barrel and remain lodged there. If I do end up with snow in my barrel, I carry my rifle back to the vehicle with the muzzle pointing down. When I get to my vehicle, I try to warm up the muzzle, usually by having the hot air from the hot air ducts blow onto it. Once the ice or snow is turned to water, I'll put a piece of tissue up in the barrel to absorb the moisture to ensure that it doesn't refreeze and cause a problem when I'm shooting. You want to be sure that you don't have ice in the muzzle of your rifle. Another very useful item is a piece of light rope. If you put it into a loop that's as long as your outstretched arms, it'll have a dual purpose. The first purpose is to haul the animal back to your vehicle. If you take a small end of the loop, put it between the jaws of the animal behind the canine teeth, then take the small loop and put it over top of the jaws and snug it tight, you'll be able to haul the predator back to your vehicle. When you're shooting, if you take that same loop of rope, double it over, and put it over top of your knees, it'll give you a remarkably steady platform for shooting.